Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. So in today's video I have a couple of pieces of news and then we'll get into some early speculation for San Diego Comic-Con 2023. We're waiting for the schedule to drop. It should be any day now we start to get the daily release of the schedule for Comic-Con, and once we have that we'll know what panels Avatar will and won't be included in, and we can really get into some proper speculation. But for now I will give some early thoughts on what I think should happen, what we should be expecting before any announcements have been made. But first, the news. So two new books have been announced here. Nothing super exciting, just so you're aware, but one of them is more interesting. The second one's a little bit more interesting. So first up, Aang's Epic Adventures from Random House. It's going to be $7.99. It's going to release January 2nd, 2024. As you can see here, it's early readers step into reading. There's the cover. The reveal on what exactly this is comes out in the description. This book basically collects these previously released books from early Avatar, basically, while Avatar was airing, of course. It's kind of book 3 era stuff. Aang's School Days, Love Potion number 8, and Sokka the Swordmaster. So these are all previous early reader kind of books that came out back when book 3 was airing. Aang's School Days is a retelling of the Headmasters, an adaptation of the Headmaster in early reader style. Sokka the Swordmaster is a retelling of Sokka's Master in early reader style. Love Potion number 8 is technically quote-unquote original content, but do know that nowadays this is blatantly non-canon. Before the reason it's fully non-canon, it was basically already agreed upon by most fans that it was non-canon. For anyone wanting to know the exact details now as to why it's non-canon, the idea is that this is apparently the first time Toph gets to meet Chong and the other nomads, but of course we know now that the first time she meets them is in the relatively recently released comic Toph Beifong's Metal Bending Academy. So that obviously is much higher canon importance than this book, and that makes Love Potion number 8 non-canon. Not to mention it's a bit of a weird kind of plot, as you would expect from a love potion, and they just start admitting feelings for everyone and stuff like that. There's some weirdness going on here, and you understand why it is non-canon. But weird that in 2024 they're going to be releasing this book from what, like 16 years ago, basically at the time it's going to come out, give or take a couple of months. And especially given that they're kind of unimportant, not particularly memorable books as such. They're just reprinting them, I guess, because they have them. For collectors, I suppose, if you don't have it, because I don't have physical copies of these, this is something I'll probably grab just to have, because it's like a weird kind of unique gimmicky thing. But do know that obviously it's not canon or anything like that. So, you know, there's that if you want it for a relatively cheap price. So interesting enough. The second one is more interesting. No cover, but I Am Zuko by Avatar The Last Airbender. It's Little Golden Books, $5.99. Also coming out January 2nd, 2024. Prince Zuko thinks the only way to restore his honor is to capture the Avatar, help his father conquer the 4 nations. Is it truly the best thing for the world or for himself? Zuko's emotional journey from exiled Fire Nation Prince to Firebending Master, illustrated in the signature style, and yeah, typical everything else. The other book in the series is I Am Aang, which I do have a video up that came out actually only, what was it, last month actually? Early last month it came out, so it's pretty new, the release of I Am Aang. And the expectation, I guess, will be that it'll be the same creative team on this. It'll just be more matching Zuko, because this one was very focused on Aang, going through his specific journey. I don't mind at all them going for, like, you know, some sort of a Zuko style one that kind of gets to some similar points, but focuses in more on the stuff that specifically relates to Zuko. So I guess we'll see more Iroh in that. It'd be interesting if there's some Ursa stuff in here. Again, there's no new story content as such here, but it basically is confirmed, I guess, we're going to be getting new art, and I think people really like the art from I Am Aang, and especially if it's the exact same artist, because I don't think it's fully confirmed who the artist is yet. Maybe when we get the cover we'll be able to tell for sure, but that's good. I don't mind this at all because it is so cheap and I think the art is super, super nice. So I'm all for these I Am books. Is there much room to do many more after this? Like, I'd be fully up for them doing like I Am Korra and doing a Korra one and just showing that, hey, we're allowed to do Korra merchandise. That would be really nice to get. But that is basically all the news that we have. Like I was mentioning before, Comic-Con is July 20th to the 23rd. So we're in a position now where we are like a month away from SDCC. And of course, we always are going to expect Avatar news of some sort to happen at the con. The schedule is not up yet, but like I said, it should be going up in the coming days. So let's get into some just quick speculation about what could and should be happening this year for Comic-Con. So straight away, I think what kind of feels guaranteed that really shouldn't be a problem is for them to have a publishing panel. I'd be pretty confident that they should be able to have a publishing panel. So we should be able to see Dark Horse, Abrams Books, and Magpie probably at a publishing panel. Again, that's what they've done the last couple of times. And I would be expecting news. So It gets a bit awkward, I think, potentially with Magpie and Abrams, because, of course, when the panel kind of takes place, Legacy of Yang Chen will have just released, like a few days before the convention. So they'll still be in sort of like the hype mode for that. And because we are kind of done with Yang Chen now and potentially going on to a new Avatar, we don't really know the full details. Will they announce that now, or will we get another year delay in between, a year gap, I suppose is the better way to say it, in between series, like we did in between Kyoshi Book 2 and Yang Chen Book 1? Or did that only happen because like Avatar Studios sort of came into fruition in the middle of all of that? So we don't actually know what the situation is with the books, but hopefully we learn the future of the novels sooner rather than later. I'd really like for them to say what the overall plan is for Chronicles of the Avatar, but otherwise, you know, the book has just been released. They'll still be promoting Legacy of Yang Chen at the very least. The other thing is that probably by the time we get to Comic-Con, the expectation would be that Magpie will have released the Korra Republic City expansion book for the Legends RPG. I think they said the digital stuff should be out in July, physical stuff a few months afterwards. So we should have our digital PDFs for the book. And then again, I think the question with them is then going to be, are we going to get a tease or a look at the Spirit World book, which is the second expansion that we know they are planning to do? Given that this all seems to have been planned out initially, I would probably expect that they theoretically should be able to show us something, at least if not here, then probably at New York Comic Con. I think we should be able to maybe get a look at the cover or something like that. Because again, I think there's a few legend characters who we maybe expect to be included, and the Spirit World one might be the one to do that with. And then, you know, for them, it would also be nice to know, like, is there a plan beyond that Spirit World book? Because I think people want to see different eras introduced into the game. It's been a big success. Then we go to Dark Horse. So this is probably where the most kind of expectations are on, because they blatantly have the most, like, notable sort of, like, content in terms of, like, the novels are obviously much more notable pieces of content when they release. But because they've just released a novel, I'm not sure there's too much of an expectation that they're immediately on to the next one. With Dark Horse, though, I think there's much more of an expectation for them to tell us the plan and what's happening, because so far nothing much has happened. With the delays to Azula in the Spirit Temple, it puts us in a very awkward situation where that book is still not out until a couple of months after both San Diego Comic-Con, and then it's actually out after New York Comic-Con as well. That's how far it's been pushed back, coming out right at the end of August, early November. So that's a bit of a problem. Will they show us preview pages for Azula in the Spirit Temple? Potentially. But I think they're almost at the point where they need to show us what's next for Avatar comics. Like, what's after the Azula comic? It'd be nice to know a little bit of the lineup there. But for sure, what Dark Horse have to do, they have to show the Mako comic. SDCC last year, they confirmed more Korra comics are coming, that it's a Korra comic trilogy. New York Comic Con, they finally confirmed the first one is going to be Mako, but there was no visuals. So I think for sure we're expecting a cover reveal here if they still plan to do things in the early style. I'd be shocked if they don't have that to show, and it would be a real indication potentially that they're a little bit behind, a bit disorganized, because it's been a long time we've been waiting for all that stuff. So Mako comics should be showing up for sure. Realistically, you need to show us what's next for Avatar comics, and then I hope they can announce or say something about Beasts of the Four Nations as well. It's been so long since that book was shown to us initially. Now it's been sort of cancelled, awaiting re-announcement. I think it's time to do that re-announcement. That book needs to come out at some point, because everyone like myself who has like the other 5 deluxe editions, we are waiting to complete that really expensive deluxe book set, and we need that last book, which seems to be Beast of the Four Nations. So I want to know if that's happening, or what the potential replacement book in the set is planned to be. Because it's quickly becoming a problem that they don't seem to have a lot going on. So I don't know. It's a weird one where like that publishing panel could be really strong, but it also could be nothing. So that's kind of very hit and miss. Braving the Elements has got a panel the last couple of years at Comic-Con. The problem with Braving the Elements is that they have not been officially confirmed for season 3 yet, which is a bit of a weird one, because you'd think the podcast is for sure popular enough that they should be able to get the next season, but they just haven't confirmed it's happened yet. So it's in a weird spot where we don't really know if it is going to continue. It probably should, with one more season of Avatar to go to cover. So are they going to do a Braving the Elements podcast panel when they're not fully confirmed for more? It'd be one. It'd certainly, if they had one, it'd be a way to like announce that the podcast is coming back, like live at the thing, and say like, "Hey, we're coming back. We're doing season 3." That might in fact be what they do. That's certainly a way to maybe mask the fact that they won't have like other significant news, if that's all they really have. Otherwise, you know, the expectations for those Braving the Elements podcast panels is pretty much nothing. It's just kind of fan interaction. Like some of the voice actors are there. That's it. So unless they announce Braving the Elements and they have Mike and Brian, the expectation would be probably very minimal information about anything else. Now, Avatar Studios. Will they announce anything about Avatar Studios? Straight away, I do want to again have people remember what happened last year. We got news about Avatar Studios at Comic-Con last year. Janet Varney, this video was part of the initial Braving the Elements panel. They put it live on all the social medias. Nickelodeon posted it. Official channels posted it. Janet Varney announced that the first movie is going to be about Aang and friends, which we obviously now know because we've seen the leaked image, is fully confirmed and stuff like that. So the precedent has been set. They are willing to talk about these projects well before they release. So it's not necessarily a good excuse to be like, well, it's still coming out in 2025, we're still only in 2023, there's not going to be any news. Well, that logic also held last year, and it was even more extreme. So I think we should be expecting something. Otherwise, like, it's been pretty much radio silent on that front. And again, if it was just one movie, I'd be like, sure, maybe we're not expecting anything. But because Avatar Studios is a studio, and they're meant to be announcing and debuting potentially multiple shows across different age ranges, tones, and approaches, movies and shows, you kind of have to give a little bit of a roadmap a bit ahead of time. And given that the rumors are also suggesting that, of course, in 2025, we're getting a movie and a show, you're probably going to have to put some public information out there about that show as well, especially when the show is going to be probably the big highlight thing for Paramount Plus, that people are going to go to see the Avatar movie in the cinema, and eventually I suppose it will arrive on the Paramount Plus, but the show will be the thing that draws people to the platform because it's the only way you're going to be able to see it. So I think they need to talk about that sort of stuff, but is it too early or what? That's where, like, it's going to be telling about, like, is it just Mike and Brian maybe at the Braving the Elements panel? then maybe you'd only expect minimal information. But if they actually do announce that there is going to be a Avatar Studios panel, then I think there's probably the expectation that this is going to be the first initial kind of news blowout where they're finally going to confirm a lot of stuff to us. And we do have to also then bring in the leaked image that we've all talked about over the last couple of weeks, months. The fact that that is out there, that is something that they showed privately, admittedly, but they showed to a relatively large room of people, shows that they have kind of preview material kind of ready, at least to a certain extent, for this project. So why can't that just go out publicly to fans? And I don't know, like, even if they just made that image official publicly and maybe gave a title for the movie, to me that's sort of like the sort of information I'd be expecting and maybe wanting, is just finally put a title on the movie for 2025 and show us that preview image officially. Or something equivalent to it. Maybe you've had more time and you have a different one that you want to highlight. But something like that is what's, I think, needed as we approach, 2 years before this thing comes out. I think you eventually have to start building hype for it eventually. And if you're willing to do it at other events, why not here at Comic-Con when people are right now pretty hyped for Avatar and stuff like that? I do think, probably surprisingly, I don't think we're really expecting anything from Netflix Avatar. I've never really kept track of the way Netflix approaches interacting with Comic-Con. So is there room for Netflix Avatar to have anything come out during this? I'm not really sure. But people are thinking about Avatar, which is why it might be a decent opportunity for Avatar Studios to be like, hey, you're excited for the live action? Well, there's more animation coming as well. And I think there's options for them there. But ultimately, my expectations are relatively low, but I ultimately would expect some announcements. Like I said, Mako comic, I think for sure has to be announced. I think everyone is right to be completely disappointed if they don't do that. And then I think if we do go through the entire SDCC and no extra news comes out, no mention of Avatar Studios that gives us any new information, I think you're allowed to be disappointed because they said something here that, like, in a year, they feel that they still can't officially tell us anything more than it's an Aang and Co. movie. Really? That's where it becomes a problem of, like, you communicated to us last year. You were willing to make the announcement of Avatar Studios public, but you won't talk this year about it. Like, there's some weirdness about that. But gonna wrap up the video there. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on Aang's epic adventures. I Am Zuko, coming out early next year. And then, do you have any expectations for Comic-Con 2023? Do you think SDCC will be where stuff happens? Might some of it be held off until New York Comic-Con when we are exactly 2 years away from the movie, basically? Or is this just not the year? And where does that put the announcement that did happen last year kind of into perspective? But let me know your thoughts below. But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.